So perhaps we'll wait a second for roll call, because Andrew and Toby are on their way.
Okay.
Yeah, but not here at the
I
moment.
mean, we can record them when they walk in. It's okay.
Yeah, okay, great. Did anybody get a chance to look at the minutes? Any questions, comments, changes? And if not, can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second?
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. Okay, we've got a pretty busy agenda this morning, and it looks like first up is going to be Lieutenant Lamb. Yeah.
Hey, good morning. So my name is Lieutenant Mike Lamb with the Asheville Police Department, and I am currently the Charlie District Lieutenant, Charlie District Commander. So currently, Charlie District encompasses all of downtown from Meadow Road going all the way north to the Woodfin city limits. So there's a large geographic area that Charlie District currently encompasses. So because of that, and because of the mix in the downtown unit and a specialized unit that didn't work 24/7, and Charlie District staffing a large geographic area, we started looking at ways to address the crime that was occurring within the downtown area. Because there was not 365 7-day-a-week coverage that was being able to address the crime. And especially since the downtown area is unfortunately a crime hotspot. If you look at the different maps on our crime stats, you've got downtown that's highlighted in red as one of the big hotspots. So in order to address that, we started looking at staffing a 24/7, 365 district that would just be within the downtown area. So if I could pull up some documents. So the benefits to creating the new district versus running with a mixed district structure and then also a specialty unit is that on the left-hand side it has what is...
Are you able to zoom that at all? I don't know if it's me, but I can't really read that. There you go. Yeah. Thank you.
So, and I was on downtown unit. I was a downtown unit sergeant in 2010 for a year. One of the funnest assignments I had, riding a mountain bike and patrolling the downtown area. So I'm excited to be back. But downtown unit does not have 365 7-day-a-week coverage, 24-hour coverage, and they only work generally Tuesday through Friday for day shift, and then Wednesday through Saturday night for night shift. So there was some overlaps where that needed to be addressed. During that time, when downtown unit's not working, there are only 2 officers that are working the downtown area. So you go from 6 overall officers and a sergeant to just 2 officers working that beat. Then if you look at personnel, downtown unit has 4 officers and 1 sergeant working per shift. And then Charlie District has 6 officers, 1 sergeant for night, and then 7 officers for days, and then 7 officers and 1 sergeant for night. So that'll be an increase in coverage 7 days a week. And now looking at the work schedules. So currently the downtown unit works a modified schedule a lot of times because they're a specialty unit. They can be flexed and they can be pulled to different assignments. So if there's a special assignment going on somewhere else in the city, a lot of time downtown unit has to staff that, which means there's no coverage for downtown. And they've also had to help with different jurisdictions too, so they get pulled to help Charlotte PD and other jurisdictions with bicycle response. With the new schedule, with the new district, that's not going to occur. We'll be downtown 24/7, again, 7 days a week with that consistent coverage. And then they're also pulled to other parts of the city, depending on what crimes are occurring, or if we're having a string of bank robberies or something like that, because they're a specialty unit, they can get pulled for those reasons also. And with the new districts, we will not do that again. It'll be consistent coverage. Now, as far as supervisor structures, there's an overlap of responsibility. So because there's an overlap of responsibility between downtown unit and the Edward division, a lot of times some of that communication and responsibility for the coverage of, for the reduction in crime downtown gets mixed. The communication gets missed, and then a lot of times there's stuff that's not addressed because of that, the two units having overlapping responsibility. So now we'll have one autonomous, consistent supervisory structure with myself and 4 sergeants that will be in charge of enhancing the quality of life downtown and also reducing crime downtown. So here's what the districts look like currently. You have Adam District, which is west, and then Charlie Central, or Charlie in the middle, and then Baker on the right-hand side. So that's a large geographic area for 8 officers and 1 sergeant to cover. And this is what it is changing to starting tomorrow. So you have the Charlie District, which you can see there'll be, again, day shift, you have 6 officers and 1 sergeant. Night shift, you have 7 officers and 1 sergeant for that small geographic area. So a lot more coverage for a smaller area. This is the beat breakdown. So you have beat 1, which is downtown, with Hilliard being the dividing line to the south. And then beat 1, which will be the MLK area, and then some of Southside, South Slope. And then beat 3, which is South French Broad area towards Klingman. And then beat 4 will be River Arts District all the way down towards to Livingston. So do you have any questions?
How many officers would be on beat 1?
So in beat 1, we're going to have 2 officers per beat. So, but we will be mainly going to wherever the crime hotspots are, because that's what we do currently with the entire city, is you have 2 officers assigned per beat. But again, that beat is a large geographic area. Like, so currently the 2 officers that are assigned to the downtown area, the whole Charlie District is currently staffed with only 2 officers. So that's going to increase to the 6 during the day and the 7 during the night. But there'll be, as far as beats go, 2 assigned to beat 1, 2 assigned to beat 2, 2 assigned to beat 3, and then 1 or 2 assigned to beat 4. But we address all of our activities based on where crime's occurring, where the complaints are, and where we're seeing little hot pockets of crime. So what we do is we shift our officers, and they'll mainly be on bicycle patrol, on Segway, and then on foot patrol. I want the officers out of the car as much as possible, being out, talking to businesses, talking to restaurants, talking to tourists, talking to the residents, our visitors, and all of our neighbors that we have downtown. So it'll fluctuate. There won't be just 2 within beat 1 all the time. It just fluctuates depending on what problems we're having in which areas.
Did I hear this correctly, that it used to be Tuesday through Friday there were 2 officers on day, and then Wednesday through Sunday there was 1 on night?
Yeah, let me show you this.
And then I'm hearing that we're going to go to 7 at night?
Yes.
What made us go from 1 at night to 7?
Well, it's, I'm sorry, it was, so maybe this can better explain it. So currently, again, downtown unit has 4 officers and 1 sergeant. Now, day shift only works Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and that's roughly until 5 or 6 in the evening. So there's no coverage with downtown unit on Sunday, Monday, or Saturday during the day. And then on night shift at the bottom, you can see there's no coverage Sunday, Monday, or Saturday, with night coverage being Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then with the district, because there's overlapping responsibilities, there's 2 officers that are working the downtown area, which is currently beat 3 today, but tomorrow will be the new Charlie District. But then at the very bottom, you can see when the district begins tomorrow that there'll be 6 during the day, 7 at night, for coverage 7 days a week.
And how about staffing? I know when we were hearing about this issue last year, there weren't enough officers. How are we? We've trained everyone. We have enough numbers now?
We do. We're running one or two vacancies on patrol because in addition to the creation of the Charlie unit, we shift Baker, which was east and south, and it'll now be north and east. And then we also had to create the David district, which is going to be the South Asheville district. And that is a long, skinny corridor that, again, is also staffed 24/7. So we reallocated officers throughout the whole city. And the only thing that we're yet to create is a power squad. So we looked at our crime analysis, and most of our calls for service downtown are from 3 o'clock in the afternoon to 3 o'clock in the morning. That's usually our highest call volume. So it's probably late spring, early summer, depending on when this next group of cadets and trainees starts working the road, we'll have 4 additional officers that'll be assigned to just working that 3 o'clock in the afternoon to 3 o'clock in the morning shift.
I was going to ask, is there going to be any seasonality changes in the number of officers?
So we have a lot of experienced officers. We will have a lot of experienced officers within the new Charlie district. All of the current downtown unit is morphing into the Charlie district. So officers range from 5 years experience to 10 years. All of my sergeants I have 22 years. Sergeant Crow has 23 years of experience, and the other sergeants have 10 to 12 years of experience.
Any other questions for Lieutenant Lamb?
And the good thing that comes with that experience is the relationships that have been built over the years. So,
I have a comment.
Yes, sir.
As a downtown resident and having experienced crime in downtown, I think this is a huge improvement over what we had before.
Great. Thank you for that. And I'll give you my email address if anybody wants to write it down for any further questions. It's mlam.
Wait.
Yes, ma'am. It's mlam, MLAMB, at asheville.nc.gov. And
Do you
also
want to
all
give
of
your
our
cell phone?
Oh, well, sure, yeah, if anybody wants it. And I'm on call 24/7 already, so yeah.
So I will say this does seem, I agree that going from 4 days of presence to 7 days is a good move for downtown. We've been having some issues. I'm a little taken back by how big of a leap we took, but are there going to be ways that we monitor to see if it's too much?
Yeah, we have monthly ComStat meetings where everything's based on computer statistics, all of our crime analysis. And so we'll be able to see how the crime numbers look, and then also if we do need to divert staffing somewhere else, if that need is there. We'll be able to monitor that on a monthly basis. I think over this next year will really be our testing time frame to see, because we've done this before. This isn't the first time that we've had just a downtown district. When we made districts in 2000, we had a 5-district system, which was north, east, south, west, and central. And then in 2000, our office was on South Market Street. So we did bike patrol all the time. It was a great resource. We came across a lot of crime in progress. Yesterday, we even had a couple that was inside of Home Trust Bank that was attempting to cash a stolen check, and 2 of the bike officers rode right into the bank and were able to arrest them and use the bikes to actually keep them from fleeing the bank. And one of the guys had a stolen gun in his pocket. So we were able to. A lot of people that are engaged in criminal activity aren't used to seeing the bicycles, so it's kind of a surprise, and it helps us to be able to address that crime better.
So I'm wondering, well, this is a big increase, and I'm really for the idea of neighborhood policing, and I really like the idea. I think the type of policing that South Asheville, being like a traffic corridor, needs is really different than the type of policing that downtown needs.
Yes.
And so I'm glad to see that there's different focuses on that. But this body voted on this before I joined, actually. This big increase is a little concerning for a lot of people, because I know that people, for a lot of people, increased policing. For some people, increased policing looks like safer property for them, and for a lot of other people, increased policing looks like less safe personal bodies and neighbors for them. And I'm concerned about that. I'm also a little concerned. I've never heard the Air Force ask for less bombers, and I've never heard a police department ask for less officers. So there's this sort of trend toward always like going for that. I'd just sort of like to ask the question here of like, what do we do if this is too much?
Yeah.
Do we come back and say, hey, we're having too much policing?
I was going to ask about those monthly meetings and if they're open to individuals like us to attend.
They are. We share crime data, but we don't share like individual names, and we don't go into detail about individual investigations. So the CompStat meetings are open for anyone from the commission that wants to attend.
What are they?
To attend. They fluctuate, so I can't say like there's a certain set day of the month that they occur.
Perhaps
but if you can't, we can share it with you. We usually schedule that a month in advance, so we can share that with the commission if you would like to attend.
I'm happy to receive and disperse that if needed.
Okay.
And I wrote down your email.
And also, Andrew, all of our officers are CIT trained, and all of our officers are also trained in de-escalation. So we hear that concern, and we are very aware of that concern. And all of our officers work on first fostering relationships. So, for example, that we'll see somebody that, based on their behavior, we see them maybe having a bad day, and the first thing we'll ask them is, hey, how's your day going? And if there was any medication involved, have you taken your medication today? And can we facilitate that or get you to somewhere where we can help with that? So we have a great relationship with a lot of our stakeholders and our service providers downtown, and so we want to continue that relationship and actually increase that relationship.
Well, I have a comment on that. I have had quite a few interactions with the downtown police force, and I think that the training that you provide people, the de-escalation and the use of resources is fantastic and non-threatening in most cases. And I have had a lot of dealings having, lived downtown for 10 years. I think you guys do a great job, and I think that, having more police downtown is a good thing, and in most cases not threatening. Unless you're trying to rob a bank or something.
Yes.
I just think it's a great thing, and the training you guys do is fantastic. So keep it up. That's my opinion as a downtown resident. I think we need more presence downtown, and I really like the idea of more, bicycle and Segway. Getting feet on the street as opposed to being in a police car is a huge improvement over what we have now.
Yes, we will be highly visible and out of the car a lot.
So I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of training and de-escalation that is culturally relevant? Only because I know that in some cities there's a recognition that traditional de-escalation tactics still are somewhat threatening to certain people groups.
Yes, ma'am.
Because of former and embedded, just whatever. I don't want to get into all that detail.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I'm just asking particularly, is there a cultural framework or a race equity framework that's really clear that even if you ask a black man potentially who's been unlawfully harassed in his mind, many times, how's your day going? It comes across as a threat just even in the question. So I'm asking just to make aware for everybody, there's levels of comfort and levels of experience, and I want to ask, how's the Charlie unit in particular well versed in those types of training mechanisms?
Okay, yeah, so to speak to your training, we've all attended racial equity training, and we've also had fair and impartial policing training. So we're very aware of implicit bias, and because implicit bias is a human behavior and is tied to the brain's response to some kind of perceived threat. And so we're aware of that ahead of time. We're also very aware of the black male threat bias, and how that is a bias based on a lot of our upbringing, Hollywood, and everything, and also historically how policing has been in the past and up to this time. So we're very dedicated to change that history. So that's all the training that we've had, and it's really important that we do have experienced officers that are here, because a lot of us have that relationships where we can talk with everybody within the community based on on a first name basis, where they can call us by our first name, because a lot of times people aren't necessarily comfortable with coming up to an unknown officer, especially depending on different cultures, different races. And so that's our goal. And what a lot of the relationships that we have downtown is where our residents, our neighbors, our tourists feel comfortable coming up to us, especially our residents and our neighbors, because they can have that relationship already to where they're like, yeah, okay, I know Lamb, I'm comfortable with him. Hey, how you doing today? So yes, that's our goal, and then that's the training that we've had, and luckily that's all the officers for the Charlie district have been handpicked. So they're based on their experience, their training, their work ethic, and the relationships that they already have downtown.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's no problem. My pleasure.
I guess just one more thing. I know that downtown, one of the special features of downtown is busking, and the relationship between buskers and police has been something that, with some successes and challenges in the past. Most of the challenges have come from officers that were not assigned to downtown and were filling in,
Yes.
and didn't understand the First Amendment, exactly how it applied, didn't have the relationships with those folks and stuff like that. So once you guys get settled and everything, I would love to have a little sit down and just kind of when the busking season really gets started and things, just kind of sit down and try to establish some relationships. I think that would be positive.
Yeah, that would be perfect. So we have A shift, B shift, day shift, night shift. So we have basically 4 different roll calls that occur. So if we want to get together and schedule a time where you could come talk to the 4 different roll calls, so that we can have that discussion on busking, because we believe it helps us to have a vibrant community downtown. So yeah, that'd be great if we get together.
I've collected a lot of stories that were really positive about relationships and interactions between buskers and police, and then I've got some others, and the others were almost uniformly officers who were not typically in downtown and were
Yes.
were filling in the old system. So
Yes.
at least in this department, I think it'll be some positive change.
Yeah.
Will y'all still be in the yellow jerseys? I saw some blue jerseys yesterday.
We'll be a mix.
They're not.
So I'm watch commander today. A lieutenant, we have to rotate as watch command over the entire city. We have to respond to any major incidents that occur. So when I am not watch command, I will be in yellow. And I, again, love riding the bike. So most of our officers, if an officer is riding the bicycle that day, they will be in yellow. Of the 6 and the 7, we want to have at least 2 that are in a car that can run the peripheral of the districts. But again, everybody else will be, and that'll rotate. But the majority of the officers will be in a reflective uniform, so that they'll be highly visible and also be safe on the bicycle.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments about this before we move on? Okay, thank you for being here today.
Yes, thank you all very much.
Okay, up next we have a design review for 68 Patton. Just a little background. So this project has already gone through its formal entitlement process, and we are here today to discuss the changes in the facade. So we are not talking about parking. We're not talking about what they're doing inside the building. We're not talking about encroachments or street trees, just this change to the visual front or the exterior cladding of the building.
Thank you. Never mind. Laptop went away. Why? Thank you, Chairwoman. My computer decided to shut off. I'm Sasha Vertinsky, planner with Planning and Urban Design. As the Chairwoman just said, this came before you actually 3 years ago almost to the date. So I think it was we were here in January 2017 with this project. And I actually did just add. Wanted to show you, this was the previous iteration. If some of you weren't here for it, it was a much, I would say, fussy design. A lot of folks criticized this design for trying to harken back to a different place and time. So I think both the staff and the design review committee were both happy with the changes that we saw. The major change is that the building's not coming all the way out to the street, to the, and it's actually kind of leaving in place to some degree the existing building line. So we're getting a courtyard about 20 feet deep, which is allowed by code. There's another step back. There's one or two more step backs building. So actually there's a decreased shadow on the park. So it's still meeting all the code requirements. It's an improved design. It's a little bit just better all overall. So let me go to the back. So in your folders are both these color renderings and also contextual views. They did the model showing the surrounding buildings. I could talk on forever, but I don't want to. So it doesn't mean you have any questions for me. I would let Peter Alvarez come up and give you more detail about.
You mentioned the shadow. Where does the shadow now fall? Let's say.
It's actually in the folder.
The one about 1126 is what we're looking at.
So in the previous, and I won't go back to the old one, but in the previous, the shadow encroached a fair bit more into the park. So the rule is you cannot cast a shadow on any area of a particular of parks for more than 2 hours on the spring equinox between the hours of 10 and 2. So as this shows you, this is between 10 and 2, so you can see the shadow moves across. So before it was actually this is barely on the park. It looks like maybe a foot. Before it was actually probably 4 or 5 feet into the park, but it was moving, so it was okay.
That's a weird standard. Between 10 and 2 is the least amount of shadow there is in a day.
Right. It's very technical. Let's not go into it. But it's also equinox. It's not like solstice, right?
Right. So yeah.
Okay. So I would.
Thank you, Sasha.
Thank you.
We're going to hear from the design team now, y'all.
Thank you all very much. My name is Peter Alvarez. I know a lot of you from prior presentations here. I'm the director of MHA Works Architects Office in Asheville, and we're extremely pleased that this project has taken a different direction. There's a new ownership group that has bought the property and the project from MRK. The new owners are taking it in a different direction, and we feel extremely happy about that. I could go in, talk more about some of the exterior changes in particular, if you have any questions, but what I'd like to do first is to pass out the actual material sample so you can see where the changes are. So hold on. I'm going to start with Brent.
Hey, this material for the penthouse isn't labeled on the elevation. Is there one in the box?
The material on the penthouse will be in different color. I'll let you show you.
Peter, you said the
And
big
while you're looking at that, let me, Sasha, I want to show the back elevation because one of the things we're excited about is how the project, actually that's an older version. I have one of the aspects of the prior design that was never resolved was how the property is entered from the Commerce Street side, which is where down the street is where the parking is for the hotel. So what we've done is use the same language of the arches that we have on the front part of the building and mirror that on the back side so that there's more of a resolved entry from Commerce Street, because that is one of the main entries to the project. So what we're showing is that, again, that's the existing back entry, but it's reconfigured with this arch configuration. In terms of the materials, and as you look at them as they're being passed around, this cream color arch, this will be real Indiana limestone, is what they're interested in using. And what we're showing in the sample box are two different types of limestone, one that's more of a pure version and another one that is actually somewhat variegated. And there's more color variation to it, and that's what we will probably use because the owners are from the Midwest area and they've seen a lot of limestone that is variegated. So that will be one of the materials that we'll use. The base of the building, which didn't show up in the model, but along the bottom where the limestone is will be a granite base, which Sage has in her hand right now. And that's to protect the granite will protect the limestone from salt and sand during the winter. Then up to the base at the second level, that will all be brick, and the brick sample is in the tray as well. It's more of a darker brick that has a little bit of iron spotting to it that we feel is a more richer color than something that would be lighter. And then above that are the floors above will all be framed and skinned with an ephes system with the extruded polystyrene, which is the blue or the green board, not the styrofoam cup board.
That's the higher quality ephes, right? That if it crumbles, it falls, it doesn't blow.
That's right. It's higher quality, has a better R value. And we looked at, and I know because Brent will probably be asking this question, but we looked at using a more of a traditional stucco system that's a 3-coat that's applied in layers and is relatively thick. And the problem with it is that all the fasteners create a thermal bridge that is actually way less energy efficient than these new ephes systems. So what we're excited about is that this building will perform better from an energy standpoint, and by using the extruded polystyrene, it'll be a much better insulator, and it's not going to crumble and blow around on the construction site and in the neighborhood of the project.
Peter, if it does end up blowing onto neighboring properties, are you prepared to, screen the building while the work continues?
Yes, yeah, we'll do that. I think that's best practice anyway to protect this building will be scaffolded. It won't be like it's not as tall, obviously, as the BB&T building. It would be impossible to scaffold a building that tall, but our building, it's either going to be scaffolded or there'll be some type of protection to keep the styrofoam or the foam from blowing around. And they're all well aware of that issue. So on the upper floor, that's going to be the main event space, assembly area, function. There'll be some outdoor spaces, and we're having that read as more of a glass, more transparent type of space, which we're very excited about because when people are up there, there'll be views in all directions of the surrounding environment. Down on the first floor, which is right in here, in the original design, if you remember, there were guest rooms on the first floor, and it was very closed in and very almost a claustrophobic space. There won't be any guest rooms on the first floor. The whole ground floor will be nothing but a bar, coffee shop, and restaurant, and it'll all be open. There won't be any real partitioning in there. So if you're a guest walking in through the front door, you'll be able to see through the entire building to the hills and mountains beyond. So we're very excited about it. We think it's going in a great direction, and our plan is to have our building permit drawings submitted by the end of May, which is 6 weeks before the deadline of the zoning entitlement. Plan review will probably take 60 to 90 days, and with that in mind, we'll probably start construction sometime 1st of September, and we anticipate that there'll be a 14-month construction period. So, any questions?
Peter, is there any reason not to have some fenestration on the east and west sides?
Yes, that's a building code issue with the city of Asheville. We can use fiberglass, but they won't let us use that. That issue came up on another project, and they look at any type of glass as not being a wall, even though their UL tests that allow that. So if you notice, we took the glass off both ends. We just can't put any in there because the local jurisdiction won't let us do that. So,
That's fascinating.
yeah.
I have a question. What's the design for the sidewalk?
Oh, sidewalk, there'll be the same 10, 12-foot wide sidewalk that exists there now. And then there'll be a front courtyard space that's about 19 and a half feet deep.
But what's the material? Are we using the standard Asheville grid, or this appears to be something different?
Well, there's brick there now, and we could go back with that. Or go back with the...
I'm just saying, we've had some real issues with sidewalks.
Right.
Like on Haywood Street and on Lexington Street.
Mhm.
And I'm hoping that you're gonna stick with something, that the city can maintain. Because now we're having to rip up sidewalks
Sure.
and replace them. The developers put in because they, from a design point of view, they seem to make sense. But, you can just take a walk down Haywood Street and, see what the result has been. So,
Yeah.
for the cost, I don't really see why anybody would do that. I mean,
No, Dan, I can't remember what was finally determined in the final TRC drawings 3 years ago, but I'm sure that issue came up, and this new ownership group doesn't have a particular need to have the brick for the sidewalk. I'm sure they'll be fine with having it be the gridded concrete.
well, I mean, that's what we're seeing pretty much everywhere now.
Yeah.
Is, and that's what's going to be on Haywood Street, when they're finished, doing that.
Mhm.
It's just, if they, if developers do something, different, for a design, it just creates problems for the city down the line.
I'm fine with that. I don't think they have an issue with it. And we'll make a recommendation to just go with the concrete sidewalk.
Yeah, I mean,
and
it's cheap and it's, easily maintainable.
Mhm. Okay.
I would check in. I've been hearing lots of problems with the stamped concrete crumbling quicker
Well,
than we
the
thought.
problem with it is the offsetting joints,
Yeah.
you can't prevent it from cracking.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know.
It's not
something
less-
that's-
We'll address
Yeah.
it for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we did address it, but we'll go back, and I'm sorry that we don't have that answer for you. But it really is the standard to do the Asheville, what do we call it, the Asheville, whatever. It has a name.
does.
I personally don't like it, and I would like to change it downtown.
Well, I'm not
I
sure.
agree.
But that's a different story, and that's a
Yeah.
longer term.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's
Yeah.
the best solution, but, it's better than everything else we have downtown.
Right.
But it's
All
true,
right.
what you're saying is true. Generally speaking, we do not allow developers to do special pavings in front of their hotels anymore because of the experience we've had with a few of them they're not ADA friendly either.
Right, well, I mean, like
we'll
Lexington
take-
Street
we
is a
will look
perfect
at it.
example.
I have a question. The front of the building looks like there's a short little brick wall that sticks out. I mean, looking at the picture, it looks like maybe a foot past the footprint of the breakout building, which is right next to it. Is that an optical illusion, a rendering issue, or is that actually, or do we actually have? Is it actually sticking out a foot past that building.
Well, it may be just an illusion in the rendering, but we can't stick anything out past the property line. And the reason for that little low knee wall is just to define the courtyard space, because that'll be an outside dining area, and by ABC laws, we have to have it defined. But it's not intended to go
It's not intended to exceed the
property line. Yeah, it's not going past the property line. If it's,
Well, I mean, I assume that you wouldn't give us a plan that went past the property line. But
Right.
My question is about is the plan like is it going to stick out farther than the buildings that are next to it?
well,
So-
if we have the property to do it with, it will stick out. I mean, we'll take advantage of using that because it is the part of the property.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I think that's going to be sort of a weird condition for pedestrians if there's a knee wall that's.
Well,
that's
no,
out of
Andrew,
place.
it is an illusion because between the end of that wall and the breakout building, there's about a 6-foot wide exit walkway. So what you're probably looking at is just the angle of it.
It might be
Oh, okay,
saying
maybe
there's a
that could be
6-foot.
It's
Yeah.
also in the rendering though, like on the pages 9 through 12, it also comes out further. So that, I think that's also why he's asking it. Yeah, and there's a bus pickup there too, so.
Yeah, that little exterior dining area can't extend into the exit way. So there'll be a space 5 or 6 feet between the breakout building and the dining area that allow people to come out of the building.
So,
Okay. I think I see why it looks like that in one rendering. Thank you.
so one of the recommendations we made when this came up for review the first time was that you work with the city on the bus drop-off there, that it be built in accordance with the design of the building. In fact, we delayed the installation of the bus drop-off there for you guys.
Right.
So is that going to be still the situation?
It still is a situation. I don't know how that is resolved at the moment.
Okay.
But that's something we need to address this month because it'll need to be in our drawing package by the end of January. So
Okay.
give us till the end of January to get back with an answer
Okay.
on that.
We've been waiting on that bus drop-off for 3 years.
Yes.
And, it would be nice to have that done.
Mhm. I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, prior owner was not able to move forward with it. The new owners are, they know that was part of the package that they purchased. We haven't gotten to dealing with that issue yet.
Okay.
So, but we haven't forgotten about it.
I think we're getting a little off track too,
Yeah,
because we are
it's-
just talking about the facade.
Well, that was part of the original approval.
I know, but we're not reopening the entire review, and I think out of fairness to the process, we just have to remember we're talking about the facade. And I noticed some comments in the packet from the design review committee about the arches and particularly the material. Wasn't sure if either of you from the design review committee wanted to comment to that. It was in
We
the-
spent a long time talking about the composition of the arches. I think the previous scheme had a different number and different arrangement, and the rectangular openings were larger. So that's all just progressed based on some of our comments, and I think this composition is an improvement from the last round.
I will ask, and I imagine it's just the angles that we're kind of getting to, but it's where the windows above line up with the arch. It looks like the center arch, you've got a solid in between. I'm not talking about the front of the
Oh, the front.
building, not the back. Yeah, I don't know if you've got just a straight elevation, but yeah, it looks like the center arch, the solid between the windows above is right in the center. It looks like on the other two, they're almost on the center, and maybe
Yeah.
they really are.
Well,
It's
they're
just
not.
the angle.
It's the
Not.
angle, and they're not because of there's existing structure in the building that we have to bring down to the ground, and that's what's determining where the 3 arches are. And in order to maintain the 60, well, we've dropped from 61 to 60 rooms. In order to maintain the 60 rooms, they're spaced the way they are along here. So there's no way for it to all line up, and it looks odd if it's lined up. It doesn't work, and
I think it looks odd that it's almost like.
yeah, I know, it's
It'd
it just
be better
went,
if it was, I don't know.
well, it's,
I didn't even notice.
yeah,
It's okay.
yeah, it's just, Pam, it's just how it evolved to
the
something that
original.
made sense with the existing structure.
Peter, I think one thing with the arches that's different from the last one we saw is you have that kind of heavy spandrel panel above the hangar door that's beige.
Yeah, that will probably be some type of ephes. We had thought about using the bronze anodized metal, and it looked way too heavy.
Oh, I was at the storefront is anodized and the windows anodized and the glass kind of reads black. I think you get more bang out of the arches if it blended in with the storefront. That's more for subcommittee kind of talk. But,
Okay.
No, can you use the mic? I can hardly hear you myself.
Oh.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, that's more of a subcommittee comment where I think that arch would have a lot more bang for your buck if it blended in with the storefront and decreased. What I'm getting at is I think everyone's excited that this building isn't a theme hotel, and I think it's better for Asheville and the life of the building. But the result is we've got a really stratified kind of design now where I think that band and some of the other bands are kind of reinforcing that. And some of your other buildings, like the one on Ashland, like the materials kind of go vertical in some spots as a highlight and kind of decrease the stratification. I think that's really successful. So you have the second paint color. It's not a different material, but maybe that penthouse drapes down the sides or kind of decreases a little bit of, just 4 floors of
Okay.
EPIS. But that's all subcommittee stuff. Like I said in the beginning, I think everyone is excited the direction this is going. And I know it's a challenge with the existing structure and the framing and the grid you have to work with on the existing walls.
Yeah.
So
The comment in the packet from Design Review Committee was that the precast trim around the brick openings might be better as a simple inclined recess, similar to the detail around the main openings on the public service building or the S&W, instead of protruding from the face of the wall. It's in your packet if you'd like to see that. But, yeah. Did you have a question, Rick?
So Peter, in front of the umbrellas, still on the patio part of the rendering, you had mentioned you needed stanchions for ABC compliance. I believe stanchions have to be 42 inches in height, so I'm wondering how you're going to address that.
It's going to be glass.
Oh, it
Above
is
the,
gonna
yeah,
be
it'll be 2
glass.
feet of brick and then
Okay.
glass. So we want to
Okay.
have it read as transparent and inviting and not a big fence.
So you can actually see through it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Any other questions or comments for the design team?
I have just a comment. So I know Sage said we're only supposed to review the facade, but we had some recommendations, from 3 years ago, and I want to just make sure that the new owners are going to observe those recommendations.
Dane, how about we do that, kind of like we've done the other projects where we do the design review and then we can add some additional comments or thoughts after we voted on the design itself? Would that work? So you can still share your
Well, some of these
intent?
are design issues, so. I mean, I'm not suggesting any changes. Just look back at the review, and make sure that, you're, I mean, we're reapproving a project that's already been approved.
Mhm.
So I'm not suggesting you change anything, just do what we've already agreed to.
And what was that? What specifically?
Well, I don't have access to the
Okay.
the original.
We can find out and get
All
it
right.
to you, though.
I think it's appropriate, you
Yeah.
ask them to
Yeah,
look
we
at
can
your
do-
recommendations, and that's fine, but they're not bound to them, so.
Well, I know it's not.
Yeah, I know
they're
you
not
did that,
bound
but-
to it, but without going back and reviewing the whole project,
Mhm.
just I mean, Sasha can provide you with whatever.
I'll be working on our annual report over the
Okay.
weekend, and this project comes up in it, and I can send you along those. I know, but I'm going to be digging through minutes. I'm happy to send it along with those
Okay.
recommendations.
Yeah, that'd be great, because it's
Yeah.
gone in a completely different direction, and frankly, we've ignored a lot of the old design to give
No,
it a
I
fresh
think
start.
I think it's a big improvement over what we had before, so, I'm not suggesting any changes.
Okay.
Just a process question, this might be more for Sasha actually, does this supersede or supplement the prior approval that this body gave?
It doesn't supersede, I mean, they have a zoning permit. We just need you all to vote. This is a new design that was significant enough that we thought the commission needed to vote on it, see it and vote on it.
But there was a design review 3 years ago that this body voted on.
Right.
And so the
So
status-
will that supersede that design
Yes,
review?
that's-
Sure.
okay.
I thought you meant like.
So whatever we vote on today, the old one is going to be completely off the table, and this new one will be
Facade part.
facade-wise.
Just
Yes.
Not the
Facade.
site plan. I mean, there's other pieces that we've been kind of going into that are more technical review,
Right.
things that we will.
Okay, I just wanted to
Yeah,
clarify exactly.
it's confusing.
How that's worked, because I haven't run into this particular thing before.
Me either, and I agree. Thank you for that clarification.
So I just have a question for clarification. It's on the most updated facade review. So we're looking at two different renderings. One that's on the Commerce side,
Right.
that's the arches and kind of like a flat facade, and then a second one that's also included that's step back that has more glass on the ground level. I'm a little confused about, and that's from 1126. Is there a reason why you went from the glass incorporation back to the most recent one that looks more like the front side? There's a lack of balance in my just looking at it visually from the newer one, and I'm wondering what happened. Like what were the changes? and
Well,
why?
from a design standpoint, we liked, on the design side and on the owner's side, they like the idea of arches. They think it's a more timeless look. And the whole idea of incorporating arches into the building was in deference to the nice arches at the S&W cafeteria. So it's purely a design decision to unify the front side of the building and the back side of the building.
Sure. Yeah. It's just the balance seems really different with the arches on the back side. I understand that completely.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. Versus the glass, and even though there's that large, here, I don't even know how to explain it.
Yeah, I
Can
know.
we pull it
I
up?
remember what you're talking about, yeah, because the backside didn't have any arches on it at
Yeah.
all. We felt that it wasn't
Yeah.
articulated enough in a way that
I think
We
she's
just didn't
referring
like-
to the step back. In the previous to the arches, the design actually sets back.
well, there's two issues there. One is that the cantilever over
Right.
on the Commerce Street side that is actually an encroachment over the property line.
Right.
We're tearing that off because it
Yes,
That.
that one.
So it's not necessarily that it's set back, it's that it was cantilevered above, is what you're saying?
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's coming off because there
I think-
are structural issues with it that we're trying to mitigate, and it makes the rooms odd.
Okay.
And we,
So as opposed to, Sasha, the other one, which is more recent, so the balance changes quite tremendously aesthetically when there's the glass ground level, and then if you move it to the arches, there's a huge jump in the aesthetics. Here, let's just pull it up. I'll explain it. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's somewhat subjective, right? So like, I think you could make an argument that you prefer the older one. I think Pam did. And she told me, but this is, I guess, what they're asking you to go over.
And it meets the fenestration.
Yeah, so that's what I
Yeah.
wanted clarification on because they're both there. So I just wanted to be clear about what I'm seeing and what I'm voting on, and because they're both in the same document. So that's why I'm asking. Thanks.
And to be clear, this is what you are moving forward on.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, it is. And again,
Yeah, thank
it
you.
meets the zoning requirements for the amount of glass. And it's an aesthetic decision that we made, looking at how the interior of the rooms function and what's happening programmatically inside the building, and the idea that we wanted to have the front and the back of the building to be somewhat similar architecturally. So that's why we've gone in this direction.
Yeah, understood, thanks. It was just, it's in the same document, so it's
Yeah.
hard to know which one I'm
Yes,
actually.
sorry.
Yeah, that's,
Thanks.
Because that was what we were been looking at in December, and I just left it.
Peter, I have one additional question. On the front, where the arches are, on the front elevation, on the right and the left, there are two rectangles that look like they're ethos, or they're vertical, or maybe they're lights. I don't know. Go one more, Sasha. Right there on the left-hand side.
yeah,
there's
that's an infill panel in the stairwell. You're talking about those?
Yes.
That and that. There's a tall stairwell in there, and that's just an infill panel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Andrew, this particular rendering shows that wall you were concerned about in the, what looks to be the gap.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
a required exit, and
Yeah.
then there's one over here.
Okay. There's a lot of drawings. Okay, great. Any other questions for the design team? Okay, and we do need public comment on this because it is a change and a review. So if you would like to share an opinion about this project, if you could come up and state your name, you'll have 3 minutes. That's 9:31 for public comment. Okay, no public comments. All right. There are a couple draft motions in your packet if anyone feels inclined to make a motion. Okay. I'll move to recommend approval of the design for 68 Patton Avenue as presented based on site plans, elevation, and materials submitted and discussion heard during this review.
Second.
Any further comments, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So we've got, did I see that right, Andrew? Did anyone else? Andrew opposed, okay. Thank you, and thank you for being here. Congratulations on a more pleasing facade. Next up, we're going to hear from the Broadway Cultural Gateway Report. We've got Stephanie Moore and Chris Joyelle.
So I want to make a quick comment. That was on the facade. I do want to make a quick comment on something that's not facade related,
Okay.
whether they're in the room or not. I mean,
They're about to walk.
so that's a large bus pickup area. We've had, a pad improved. It's a bus drop off. Sometimes the bus sits there. And so I just want to make sure that you're just aware of foot traffic that may not be patrons of the building and their right to actually convene and congregate and wait for transportation. And I know you will personally, but I just want to say it on record because the building and its use is great and what it's doing, but there's a natural need to understand that the patterns and habits of people expect to be able to use that public space to wait for their own personal needs.
Yeah, we don't have an issue with that
Yeah,
at all.
it's-
I mean, it's the public space.
Yeah.
And we don't have any control over that and don't want to. I mean,
Okay.
Understood.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Peter.
Okay.
We
Thank you all
appreciate
very
you,
much.
Peter.
Can we get that in the minutes?
Thank you. Okay, Chris, Stephanie, come on up. Okay.
So thank you so much for inviting us to do a presentation on the Broadway Cultural Gateway Project. I'm Stephanie Moore, Executive Director of the Center for Craft, and in 2013 we bought a building in downtown Asheville, formerly the Lark Books building. It's an iconic 1912 building that is on the Register of Historic Places, and we wanted to ensure that as we were developing this property, we took into an account not only the unique heritage and cultural assets of the area, but a community listening session that involved our neighbors and members within the community, and called on the Asheville Design Center to lead a project called the Broadway Cultural Gateway Investigation Project. We actually had a community-wide pilot and testing of some of the ideas from this back in 2018 and came out with some press that you may have stumbled across at the end of last year. Our time together is to really review the findings of this report, and what you have in front of you is the comprehensive report. We are going to do a highlight of some of the particular findings and the way we're moving forward. So how do we advance here? What's the best way? Just come over.
You can probably pull the laptop. Oh, is it projected or HDMI? It's not projected, so just give her the laptop. Yeah.
Or I can just talk, whatever is easy. Chris is gonna need it, but this is better. Okay, so then it's just scroll and not.
Is that what she does?
Yes.
I'm not caught up with it.
Yes.
Okay.
Fingers and scroll.
Hey Siri.
Yeah, sorry. Help me out, sir. Okay, so the first 2 pages of the report include members of the advisory board, the design team, the focus group. It is 2 pages. I just want to thank Andrew Fletcher and Dane Behringer, who are in the room today. Dane is one of our neighbors, and Andrew was on the advisory board. And of course, Dana Frankel was also intimately involved with the project. And most of you are familiar with the area that we're talking about. In summary, ADC recommended creating a gateway into downtown, which is what we're coining the Broadway Cultural Gateway, improving the pedestrian experience and activating the city's alleyways, which we'll be talking about today. There are a set of stated goals. The ones that I would highlight is to both preserve and revitalize the creative sector. That's what we're actively doing in ownership of our building, and also making sure that we adhere to creative placekeeping values, making sure that the arts and culture are an active and stable and sustained part of downtown. So with that, I'm going to invite Chris Joyelle to come up and highlight some of the findings.
Good morning. My name is Chris Joyelle. I'm the director of the Asheville Design Center. I will try and walk you through a little bit of the process that we used to gather community input, what we heard from folks, and then the recommendations that came out of that. There's a lot of material to cover, so I may speak quickly, but I'll welcome questions as I go. So just to give you a sense of the scale of what we were looking at the city block bounded by Broadway, Lexington, Walnut, and Woodfin. Our team conducted a site analysis, looked at the hydrology of the site, the elevations, the aspect of the site. We looked at pedestrian connectivity throughout the block, particularly focusing on Carolina Lane, the alleyway, the service road that runs through the center of the block from north to south. And as Stephanie mentioned, we hosted a creative intervention May 5th, 2018. We had about 1,000 people that attended the event. We had activated Broadway and Carolina Lane with a number of different exhibits. We provided 7 different stations where people could evaluate different design alternatives and weigh in on their preferences. Of the approximately 1,000 people that attended, nearly a third of them took part in this survey, which would take about a half an hour to complete, walking physically from station to station and weighing in. But we received some really valuable input in doing that, and that helped lead to alternatives that we were able to present to a number of different focus groups, focusing on property owners, residents, businesses within the area. We also reached out to Southside residents to learn more about how we could be able to integrate concerns and desires for the community in the South Side to return to downtown, and had a meeting over at the Eddington Center. So I mentioned the focus groups. We also did have great involvement from UNC Asheville students. We had, I believe, over 150 students across 9 different departments that participated in this project. They created their own models of certain renderings of what we could see in the alleyway, focusing on Carolina Lane and again on Chicken Alley. But we got some great input from them, and they also helped with the programming during our creative intervention. I mentioned our outreach to the south side. As Stephanie mentioned, we were looking at the concept of a cultural gateway. What we found when we started talking to residents and property owners in the area was that there was a perception of multiple gateways from the north. The primary one that a lot of people recognized was coming through Lexington and underneath the highway as being one of those primary gateways. And I think that speaks a little bit to the intersection of Woodfin and Broadway and the kind of the lack of gateway entrance feeling that you get at that intersection, and that was something that we wanted to be able to focus on. Stormwater is a huge issue within the block. All water within that block drains down to Lexington Avenue, so there's not a single storm drain within the block. Residents, property owners will remind us of that routinely because with every rainfall, their properties often get inundated. You have a lot of makeshift curbs that people have installed in front of their doorways to try and prevent water from coming in. Basements are getting flooded out. So managing water is a real big issue. And we were fortunate to have Joel Osgood and his landscape architecture team review that and come up with 3 different alternatives of how we could resurface Carolina Lane to deal with stormwater. And you'll find that in the report. Overhead utilities, it's funny, we had mixed feelings about what to do with overhead utilities. Duke Energy probably made it pretty clear for us when they gave us the price tag of undergrounding those utilities. But we did actually hear from a lot of folks that were very interested in keeping the gritty nature of Carolina Lane as it is, and a fear of actually sanitizing that alleyway by burying all these utilities and cleaning it up. There are still a number of people that live in Carolina Lane. I know, Andrew, that you yourself lived down there at one point. So there's a concern for a lot of folks there that are renting that they didn't want to get squeezed out. It really would be like kind of the last vestige of gentrification in downtown. So overhead utilities, we studied that as well. As I mentioned, the Broadway and Woodfin intersection is a really daunting one for pedestrians. We had some recommendations for how we may be able to address that. We also worked, one of the dynamics within this project is that we were focused on 3 separate roads primarily. We were looking at Broadway, Carolina Lane, and Chicken Alley, and the nature of those 3 roads posed a real challenge to us because Broadway is a DOT-controlled road, Carolina Lane is a locally controlled road, and then Chicken Alley is a private road. So we had a whole range of issues in looking at those 3 different properties, or those 3 different thoroughfares, and what opportunities were possible depending on the ownership and control. But at the Broadway intersection, there are some significant challenges, and it's going to require coordination with Density DOT to create what we hope would be a more pleasant experience for pedestrians. It definitely has a feeling of intimidation, and we noted that a lot of people do not even approach the intersection. They typically turn around. If they're tourists, they will turn around and head back on Broadway. Parking is naturally a concern. I'm going to skip through this pretty quickly because I'll come back to it when I address a parklet concept. We did notice that there can be some improvement in signage. A lot of people know where Chicken Alley is, but that is mainly because of the mural that Molly Must had installed there, which says a lot, I think, about how art can contribute to placemaking. But what we found was that hardly anyone knew Carolina Lane. When we would describe it to them, then they would realize where we were talking about, but no one actually knew the name of that. And if you look around, there's not a single street sign that signifies Carolina Lane. So there can be some improvements to signage for wayfinding and just for a sense of place. Throughout the project, we were really focusing in on the cultural heritage of the area. The number of cultural institutions that we have throughout this corridor would lend to creating this kind of experience as you enter the city of announcing that you're entering a culturally rich area, and we wanted to be able to tap into that by reaching out to a number of the different cultural institutions in the area. The sidewalk along Woodfin was one in particular that we were focused in on. It's a 4-foot wide sidewalk, and it completely defeats the purpose of pedestrian circulation that we'd like to see downtown. We get a lot of traffic on Lexington, and we get a lot of traffic on Broadway, but we find that a lot of folks tend to turn around when they reach Woodfin and head back the other way, just because the sidewalk itself, as you can see in this picture, is narrow. You've got some utilities that stick out, and then when the garbage cans come out, is utterly impassable. Our recommendation was that there is a lot of room within Woodfin to entertain the idea of eliminating one lane that is heading eastbound, basically coming uphill, eliminating one of those lanes and expanding that sidewalk to a more appropriate 10-foot sidewalk. We feel that alone could contribute greatly to helping the circulation in that section of downtown. The Broadway crosswalk across from Loft and Henco is one that I don't know if you're very familiar with it, but you tend to take your life in your hands sometimes if you assume that people are going to stop for you. There are a number of recommendations that we're making that we feel will contribute to traffic calming as people come off the highway and as people are coming in from North Asheville, to quiet that traffic and announce to them that they're entering a very dense pedestrian area, and that cars in many ways become second-class citizens in this area. And we feel that the opportunity to heighten the visibility of crosswalks, there's a number of different ways that you can do it, some very creative ways that it can be done. Across the country, we've seen great examples of how people have treated crosswalks in such a way that they catch people's attention. Because the yellow signs on either side of that crosswalk don't seem to be doing a job. Again, the catch is that it's a DOT-controlled road. DOT typically has not sanctioned these kind of customized crosswalks, and that's something that we need to be able to work with DOT to be able to get permission to do something like that. And I know that we've made a lot of headway in getting there. We did look at installing a parklet in front of the Center for Craft on Broadway. So for those not familiar with the concept of a parklet, that's where you commandeer 1 or 2 parking spaces and create a public space out of it. It's one that's protects the patrons from ongoing traffic on the street. And so we did a mock-up of that on that May 5th intervention and found it to be really successful. We also found that it worked incredibly well as a traffic calming device. As soon as we installed it, as soon as we started putting plants on the edge of the parklet, we saw an immediate drop in vehicle speed. I know it's just anecdotal, but we've seen evidence of this with parklets throughout the country as well. So the idea of having this kind of public space, this would be our city's first public parklet, publicly accessible parklet, one that's not just an extension of sidewalk dining. And so we were really excited about the prospect of that. Again, the challenge, DOT-controlled road. DOT has not sanctioned a single parklet in North Carolina. This project would be the first. So we love the idea of being able to set a precedent, not only
Good for y'all.
not only just for Asheville. I mean, it's great to be able to set that precedent for Asheville, but for North Carolina in general. I think that it can open the doors to some really creative solutions on our streets and affording more public space, or recapturing some of that public space. And thank you to the Downtown Commission for the parking crawl that you all had committed to, because that actually helped us identify 2 parking spaces on the opposite side of Broadway to be able to absorb that loss of parking in front of the Center for Craft. So it was nice to see that resource. Appreciated that.
Thank you.
We mentioned parking. There are a number of surface parking lots surrounding the block that can be better utilized. The West Walnut Street parking area could certainly host a deck. We feel that the surface parking lot over at Home Trust Bank could also have that capability. We know that there are potentially plans for the parking lot on Broadway between Market Street and Broadway, where Peter had a proposal not too long ago that is now on hiatus. So we're very interested to see what happens to that surface parking lot as well. If in the short term we feel that there's ways that those surface lots can be screened in an artistic way to kind of break up the visual blight that you get with the surface parking lot, and we've made some recommendations for that as well. Something that we were really excited about the prospect within this project. We looked at obviously the gateway in and of itself, but to recapture Carolina Lane as an alleyway. Carolina Lane came into the system on our road grid in 1919, I believe, and it functioned as a road, as a fully functioning road, hosting businesses and residents. Following the emptying out of our downtown in the 70s and 80s, and as our downtown came back, Carolina Lane devolved into a service alley. Now, it will still have to function in some ways as a service alley for solid waste disposal primarily, but we do feel that there is an opportunity to recapture this area and in many ways serve as a model for many of the alleyways that we have downtown, of rehabilitating these alleyways into functioning areas that can contribute to our local tax base and our cultural identity. So the idea of exploring Carolina Lane and reactivating Carolina Lane, that was really the focus of that intervention that we had back in 2018, was to demonstrate that this is a space that was not being very well used, and we felt that it had much more potential if we could take a design eye to that approach. We looked at lighting and road surfacing. As I mentioned, the road surfacing in Carolina Lane does nothing to mitigate any of the water issues, the hydrology in that area. We have recommendations for semi-pervious and pervious coverings that could clean up that alleyway in many ways, and I think alleviate a lot of the property owners' concerns while also making it easy to walk. We had a number of ideas for lighting in the alleyway as well. One issue that we came up with, we were looking at ways to screen the rubbish bins that line the alleyway, and that's something, say, like right outside of 5 Walnut. You kind of are, when you look into Carolina Lane, you're greeted by a phalanx of garbage cans, and we felt like there could be a way to address that. And so we initially looked at screening those cans and just creating some kind of aesthetic screen to give it a little bit more visual impact, I guess. And what we found in talking with Jess Foster over at Solid Waste Disposal, it wasn't practical. The screening element actually it conflicted with the way that they could collect trash. It also conflicted with the fire lanes. But Jess then proposed to us that there was a model program out of Roanoke, Virginia, where the city had been using centralized trash compactors within the downtown. This is, I think, an incredibly interesting concept, one that I think we have the potential to pilot here in Carolina Lane, where a centralized compactor, privately owned and maintained, could service the entire block in such a way that it could actually reduce costs for the private property owners, and at the same time clean up the alleyway immensely, visually. I'm trying to think, odors, and even for pest infestation. We think that this could be a dramatic improvement to the alleyway and really take a big step towards rehabilitating this alleyway. So we are working closely with those property owners and with the city to examine the opportunity for a pilot program in the alleyway. And then last but not least, we did look at the number of opportunities for public art throughout the entire block. There's a vast amount of ghost signs, old advertisements and signs that have kind of faded that we worked with the Historic Preservation Society to look at ways that we might be able to recreate those signs or to bring them back to life and preserve them, and other opportunities for new art installations, murals, sculpture parks even. And you'll find all of that in the report. So with that, I'll wrap it up and would welcome any questions.
So I've got 2 questions, and these are really more for staff than for you, Chris. 2 of the real problems we have on Carolina Lane is people blocking the alley. And so, it's a real problem. I mean, our parking is in Carolina Lane, so we have to get through there, and it's a one-way alley, which is good functionally. But when people block it, then you can't get through. So for I guess Sasha, are you the one who would address this issue?
I mean, do you all call the police?
The police, by the time the police get there, which could be up to an hour, they're gone. So what do you do?
And, you know, and I think if Dana were here, I would say that a lot of those related to loading, right? And we're talking about loading.
Some are, not always.
Okay.
Some have been related to construction as well.
Right,
We've had a lot of new construction take place in the
A lot are
alleyway.
related to construction.
It's interesting.
Well, if anything's related to construction, please call our development services department. We can get you a number because, you know, there are permits and there's rules, and if people aren't following them, then we need to know about it. We'd send out the code enforcement. We wouldn't send police, right? We'd send maybe a code enforcement or a building inspector enforcement, whatever, somebody to go check it out and be aware of the issue, kind of like we had to do with EFIS or any other issue. I mean, that would be my best answer.
Okay.
But we can look into it.
The second issue is that alley is in terrible condition. I mean, you guys know that. Is there any plans to pave that alley? I mean, it's...
I have no idea. I'm sorry. We're a little short-staffed today.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, this could be an update. You know, it's
Okay.
really in bad shape. I mean, really bad shape.
Dane, I can tell you that we did have a request from the city to prepare 3 different price quotes for 3 separate types of treatment to that surface. I think it was a pervious, impervious, semi-pervious. And we did pull together a quote for that, submitted it to the city, and I know that the city has some intent to follow through on that. I don't know if I'm at liberty to go that far as what they're considering, but I know that it is definitely on the radar, and they are looking to do that. And it may be that they are waiting to see the completion of the current construction that's taking place right now, because I know that that's taking a real toll on what remains of that roadway. So I think that it'll definitely be ripe for repair. If it wasn't already, it will be by the time construction ends.
It's a good segue to some of my questions. Like, this is wonderful. I've seen you all do work on different blocks before, and it's incredible to see this. I just wonder what it means for what happens next. Is there anything that happens next? How can we help you, move towards some of these goals?
Well, I mean, I think the report is meant for anybody that lives in or around that area as well as property owners. So we're trying to work as best possible to distribute the report and the findings. From the center's perspective in terms of a property owner, I mean, that building was boarded up on the first floor when we purchased it. It had mattresses, it had syringes, it had human feces all over the place. And so, we're really trying to hold the line with this property development, but partnership with the city on things like paving behind there and addressing the storm drains and other things would be really significant. I think that our investment right now is in looking at this shared compactor to clear up some of the trash areas. People right now will dump furniture back there and expect for us to call the sanitation to clean up things. And so we're constantly being the big monitor. In fact, yesterday I waited 15 minutes to get down the alley to park my car. So, I think as a property owner, we're just one of many on that alley. But really looking at some of the recommendations and how we can assign resources to support a bigger vision of what that place could be.
So Dana is watching this meeting. And she said,
Thank you, Sunshine Request.
yes, that's exactly what she's doing. I was like, how do you know what's going on? She said, we're asking parking and fire to enforce, so we'll continue to do so. And yes, it's in terrible condition. I keep asking Public Works to pave, and I can prepare an update for next month. So city staff's very aware of that.
I do have to say that we have created a wonderful relationship with the police department. They are there almost every night hauling people away in handcuffs and patrolling and resting in our garage. So I do want to commend them for their help.
One of the side benefits of doing this project was that we were able to conduct about 50 different individual interviews with property owners and businesses and residents in the area, and through that started to create a network where people were being able to connect with other property owners and start exploring opportunities. So we know that David Brown and his children have been looking at various properties that they have along Chicken Alley and are now beginning to contact the other property owners in Chicken Alley to look at treatment for that road surface, something that would have to be privately done. And in the public sphere, I can attest that the trash disposal was perhaps the biggest conflict within the alleyway for all the various property owners, and they have found a way to coalesce around this idea of a compactor as a way to bring some peace to the area as well. So I think that just through this process, we've been able to connect a lot of those people, and the Design Center will certainly stay involved. I think with the leadership coming from the Center for Craft, you're going to see a lot of these initiatives. They won't lose steam.
That's exciting.
Did you guys look at the impact of short-term rentals on Carolina Lane?
It was an issue that came up, but there was really nothing I think that would change the short-term rentals that are in the alleyway are grandfathered in. I know that there was some issues as far as again, going back to the trash collection, that was really probably one of the primary issues, but it also brings a lot of life to that alleyway right now with pedestrians coming up and down that alleyway, which I think is a self-policing element in a lot of ways.
I'd like to comment on that. So, Chris, just a correction. I didn't live in Carolina Lane. I had a music studio there, rehearsal space and everything. So, I mean, it was great to keep all my gear downtown, which made me more car-free to get downtown without my gear because it was already there. Was really great. My band lost that space because the property owner wanted to Airbnb the upstairs and did not even allow us to stay there before that transition was made. So you know, like there's you can say that there are benefits of Airbnb to like a short-term rental there, but you really have to count the benefits of the loss of people like me not being there. I could be one of those. I could have been one of those people keeping eyes on the street, you know, and keeping things safe. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I was directly. If I remember, you ever think I'm extra vociferous about how short-term rentals have affected this city? This is why, because I'm one of the few people who've been personally gentrified out of downtown by an Airbnb that sits on a body like this. So a lot of the people who have been affected like me, they don't sit here. Yeah. And so that's why I'll bring that up. I'm really pleased to report though, and I'm glad to see that the real problems of just the day-to-day life there, trash pickup and traffic and that kind of thing, had some focus, and I'm hoping that the neighborhood got some cohesion and built some relationships with itself. Outside of what y'all did, I think hopefully those relationships will last between folks that were made.
And thank you for your time and energy on working on this project, Andrew.
Yeah, it was fun. And by the way, that May 15th event I can't believe it was almost 2 years ago now.
I know.
That was awesome. Who went to that? Yeah. It was really cool. The parklet in front of the Center for Craft on the Broadway side was super cool. You know, there's so much about that day that I thought held a lot of promise for what could be what would increase quality of life without gentrifying, which is always that line that I'm always seeking to find. So, thanks.
So speaking of parklets, actually the very first parklet that Asheville had was on Lexington Avenue in 2012.
Oh yeah, that's right. Sorry about that. I should have put an asterisk on that.
Right in front of my store. So I know it was there. And you know, and the businesses on Lexington Avenue definitely helped sponsor that. One of the issues and the reason it's not there anymore is that it did take quite a bit of maintenance and financial investment to continue making look nice. And I know that you guys know what it is to invest financially in your surroundings, and also the partnerships that have to work to make something like that a reality. So. Until it is there and until it's there for a year, because it could be that you put it there and it doesn't work out the way you want it to. But and then like all of this, I think this is an amazing opportunity also to tell the history of Asheville, of Water Street, and of places like Vincent's Ear, and that have also med us who we are and also what we do value. And again, to teach the people who come here as visitors. How to come here as a visitor, and what to appreciate about why they love it here and why they keep coming back. And I think that using this as an opportunity, which I know you will do, and I hope that you will do to the extreme, to make it an educational piece in the way that art is.
Can do, yep.
So I want to make a quick comment. It's great. The parklet piece, I noticed in West Asheville as well as in some places out west that I've visited. It often helps with parklets, to Franzi's point, to have a grower as part of the ecosystem, as an owner of whether it's a florist shop or a vertical line of a grower, because then, just like, I'm thinking literally in West Asheville, the parklet components that have really populated Haywood very well in East-West Asheville is literally designed by the florist that's there, and actually there's a revenue stream and a beautification stream, and there's like a full circle kind of life because of their presence. So I'm just wondering if that's a component of like these the research and the partnerships and ideas are great, but like when you come to like putting your feet on the ground and doing it, are some of those aspects also kind of interjected in this process?
You want me to? Yeah. So one of the things that the center has picked up from the Broadway Cultural Gateway Report is the parklet. We are working with Joel Osgood of Forco to put together a design process. We are actually at construction drawings and have had a lot of meetings with Department of Transportation, the City of Asheville, and others. We're fundraising for the effort, so we know what it will take not only to build it, but to make sure that it's sustained. It's tricky because it has to be temporary. So, and certainly working with growers and people to think about not only the bricks and mortar of what it looks like, but how can it be an asset from a vegetation perspective. The other thing is that Broadway was the old Indian Trail, so we stopped midstream in the schematic design process and have been having extensive meetings with the Cherokee to not only do a land acknowledgement, but also to design the parklet with input from the Cherokee people. So that is happening, and we've been invited to submit a grant to RICTAR and others. So there's a lot of exciting things happening with respect to the parklet.
That's great, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Well, I have a comment. I totally agree with Andrew about the short-term rentals. The two main issues for us are policing, which we've already talked about, and which is one of the reasons why I totally support the new, Charlie district, for downtown. That the whole Carolina Lane, the situation there. We have a lot of homeless people. We actually had somebody living in our alleyway at one point. So the policing is hopefully being addressed. The other is parking enforcement. I mean, we can't necessarily get rid of the short-term rentals, although I would like to. But, they don't enforce the parking there, and people block the fire lane. And, we've had trouble getting people, the parking enforcement people to come and, write tickets. So anyway, nothing you guys can do, but I applaud your efforts, and I love the compactor idea. So.
I think everybody will love the compactor.
All right. Any other comments, Al? Thank you so much for taking the time to be here and share all this wonderfulness with us.
Thank you, and thank you for your service.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, y'all, I am committed to getting us out of here at a reasonable time. So here are two things up next that I'm going to speak to. The commissioner appointments and officer elections. So we have a nominating committee. Raise your hand if you're on that nominating committee. Ruth?
I'm no longer going to be on the committee.
So it's Ruth and Pam? Okay, we might need to discuss that. And Toby, you want to join us? No. So here's what we need. Next meeting, we will be discussing and voting on chair and vice chair. And if you are interested in holding one of those positions, please email both Ruth and Pam, and perhaps copy Dana. You are going to join us? Okay, Tobias is on. So if you'll email the three of them and copy Dana, that would be great. And then we will reconvene in February to vote on those positions. The other big thing is the annual report. So these are due to council by the end of the month. So this will be the last time that we convene over it. However, what I'm going to do, there is a draft working report linked in your agenda, and Dana and I will be teaming up to add a lot of detail. What we do have here is an outline, and you can kind of see the major things that we've hit on. We've been going through the minutes month by month and making sure we've covered everything that we advised on or voted on. And I think, if you have a chance or you've already looked through this document, maybe give us some comments now, but you can expect a final draft to be sent to you in email. Did you have a concern, Sasha?
No,
okay.
I just couldn't find it. I don't know if any
Oh,
people
it's
have.
linked in the agenda.
I know that this computer died, but I did not get it in my email this week, so I just like it resent.
Would you like to?
There's a link.
Yeah, there's a link there.
But this was right. I didn't get the agenda, is what I'm saying, in my regular email this week. So, yeah.
Okay.
And then this one's dead. So.
Well, it's a fairly long document, and I'm happy to go through it. I don't know if you'd rather me go through this line by line or if you'd rather be out of here on time. Yeah, I know. I was being slightly facetious. It is a long document, and we have done a lot this year. So I think perhaps just let Dana and I finish drafting this. You will have the link so you can come in and comment on the draft, and then look forward to getting an email in the next week or two with a final. Okay, that said,
Is that just
Go ahead.
clarity on that? Are we comfortable? Is that commission level work that we can do
over
in a
email.
way, over email, or is that something that has to be done in an open meeting?
I don't think, because it's a
Sorry,
summary of
sorry.
actions and it's not actual actions that would involve public comment or a vote, I think it's fine over email, especially if we have a Google document that is linked to on a public page and you are just commenting on it.
Okay.
I think that's okay. Yeah. We're not going to go back and forth on, I thought it went this way and it should have been that way, or I hated when we voted on that. None of that stuff, right?
You get into substance, yeah.
Right.
Okay, cool. I
And
just
I'll-
want to make sure that we got, before
Yeah.
we pass our opportunity in an open meeting to work on that
Okay.
we are clear that that's okay to do before then. Thank you.
I believe it is. And you'll see when you get into the document that it's pretty just information-based. Is everybody comfortable with that?
Yeah, it's just commenting about our past work, so.
Yeah. It's really a summary.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. That means that our next thing is 2020 meeting dates. Can we, if you pass me that computer, I'll just man it from here. Is that easier? There's some other updates coming. So we have our meeting dates. Yep, pretty standard. We're not changing time, location, or week of the month. But we did want to make sure those were posted. And then design review committee meetings are below that. Again, linked in your agenda. No changes to schedule. It will be consistent with what we've done this year. Any questions about that? Everybody still okay with the meeting time and schedule and day of the week? Okay, great. So then we're going to move on to updates and reports, and the Asheville Downtown Association, there is a link there if you could click it, Sasha. I think this is the last time we'll ask you to do that. Oh, maybe one more actually. Yep, that one. What I've done here, actually, it's pretty exciting, and I know it's kind of crazy to think about, but look at those key dates for 2020. We've gone all the way through the holiday parade. So we just had the holiday parade, but we're already talking about next year's. So here are your Downtown After 5 dates. The Easter on the Green date, which is our free event for children and families in downtown, will be April 11th. The State of Downtown Luncheon, I'm not sure if many of you attend that, but it's a great event, and I believe Tobias was our speaker last time. Yeah, but it is going to be on February 26th, 12 to 1:30 at the, I guess we call it the Harrah's Center now. Oktoberfest has been slated for October 3rd, as you can see, and the Downtown After 5 dates are up, so we'll have the same 5 summer months. And I think that's it for the ADA updates this time. Do we have, Pam, would you like to update us on Design Review Committee?
Yes, back in November, we saw the project that we approved today, so we don't need to go into that. And we also looked at 251 Short Cox, which is a proposal for a mixed-use retail and townhouse rentals, or apartment building with garages. It'll be accessed from Lee Garden and not Shortcox. They will be looking for a variance for street trees because of sewer conflicts. And they have a 15-foot landscape easement at the back of the property. Comments from the committee were they need to look at screening for their mechanical, request for more transparency on their front ground level elevation, and to look at the requirements and see, I don't know, Sasha, if it was determined if it was we had the question, is it a transition edge area? It is, and what those height limits were. So that was just a comment.
It was just a technical review, and staff has noted, like right now, I don't believe it's complying with that transition edge, and so they'll be at the design review committee whenever that third Tuesday is. I don't think it's next week, but so there's still time for them to revise it, and we'll see if they ask for a variance for that or not. So they have, because of the way the topography, they have a pretty strong case in a way for that, but I don't know. So, or they could have a strong case. I shouldn't say that.
Yeah. That was it.
A couple questions about process. Are you now representing the design review committee on this body instead of Stephen Lee?
He was absent.
Oh, you were absent. Okay. We have been adding a link to the agenda of the notes taken, and I see you have handwritten notes, and I'm not going to ask you to go type them up, but in the future, let's just try and get the notes linked to the document for the public's sake. Any questions about the design review committee? Okay. Next up, we have the parking committee update. So we had a very interesting January meeting just this week about the elusive PPPP, which is the public-private parking partnership. And this is something we've been off and on talking about for a couple years, but hadn't had a lot of momentum or reason to get behind it at the time. But we took the opportunity of the January meeting to brainstorm around what this could look like. The last time this happened was the Aloft project. And so we recognize that there are several goals to having this kind of framework or document in existence, and we're just trying to be an advisory body to city staff and this board to say, we should be probably working on this document as we move forward. And some of those goals are to provide more public parking for the community, to create a benefit for both the partner of the project and the city, to provide economic development opportunities in areas that are capable of quality growth, to use it as a mechanism or a model to incentivize affordable housing, or create workforce parking, or in some cases, perhaps a periphery lot for bringing workers into town without having to park in meters. So we looked at, and this is just brainstorming session, we're not submitting any recommendations at this time, but we looked at the three ways these things typically happen. One of them was the Aloft model, where the city actually played developer. They bought the land, they built the structure, they oversaw the development, and then they sold air rights to other components like the hotel or the garage apartments. But they played developer. Other opportunities that we've seen out there are when the municipality can be a investor or partner in part of it. So if it were like a 6-story deck and the city owned and funded 2 stories of it, and that was public parking as a result. And then another option is when the city owns land and it does like what's called a grounds lease. So they lease the land under a project, but someone else builds what's on top, but the city retains long-term control. So all that to say, it's one of the things we've been talking about for a long time, and we see it as an opportunity so that if there were a framework drafted, it could be down at Development Services, and if someone showed up with a project and said, we're thinking about doing X, Y, Z, we can say, well, there's this opportunity for, if you were interested in a public-private partnership, this is what it could look like. So we'll continue talking about that, and I think that is all I have for parking. It is. So next up, we've got Local Living Economy Working Group. Franzi, how's it going?
Yeah. It's good. So the main thing that we are talking about is planning Go Local Week, and Go Local Week this year is Saturday, February 8th through Saturday, February 15th. So we're asking local businesses and folks to plan something special. We'll help get the word out through the AshevilleGrown.com website. We also have a public event with Leaf Global Arts. It's a new space that's opening up at the corner of South Market and Eagle Street at the old Del Cardo building. And we're going to be celebrating that space with music and fun things. We'll also have other organizations working on healthy local economies like Just Economics, AIR, Downtown Association, Mountain BizWorks, putting on very, very short presentations and just letting folks know how their resources work and how they can access them. So it'll be really fun. Please come out. And that's it.
Thank you. All right, public space management. Andrew, you got an update?
Yeah, just a brief one. I was just talking with Dana. So there was no meeting in the past month, and right now we are, the committee's on a holding pattern while staff is taking the priorities that we generated at our last meeting with our consultant helper, Chrissy. So they are right now taking all that stuff and are going to come back to the Public Space Management Committee and hopefully early spring reconvene that probably for an approval check-in, and then I'm hoping we'll be back here. So
great. All right, thank you. That gets us to spring retreat, and I do need us. Did everybody get a chance to consider these dates that we put on the agenda? Because we need to finalize some things, and it doesn't have to be that we all say yes we can or no we can't today, but we need kind of a head nod. So as you recall, we're partnering up with the Riverfront Commission, who's really leading this initiative and has invited us to join them for a trip to Chattanooga. The dates we have identified are March 19th and 20th. Riverfront is really in support of spending the night there to get more done, and that would mean leaving on the 19th and returning on the 20th. And since we are trying to do this together and go in one bus, that means we need to have a discussion around whether or not we're interested in these dates, if we're available to go, and if we're interested in being overnight. Has anybody put any thought into this?
I have. I think it's a great idea. I think Chattanooga is a good example for us.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things we can learn from them. And
I'm available.
yeah.
Has any
Concur.
little head nod? Have you looked at your calendars? Are these good dates for everybody? Bad date for you, Ruth? What about you, Kimberly?
I think it's swing in probably Monday.
Okay. How about down here? Cannot. It's Thursday after work, to be clear, like leaving about 5:30, not including, so it's one work day, but leaving after work on Friday. So 5 o'clock on the 19th, returning pretty late on the 20th. We'd spend the day there and drive back in the evening. Does that allow? No, but yes. Brent, oh, sorry. Yeah. Brent will have retired his commission service. Yeah. Tobias, and it works. So I'm hearing a majority yes, and I'm hearing that overnight could really work. Okay, I'm going to share that with. Did you have something?
My only vacation in 5 years has been to Chattanooga for 3 days. So I really like it, and I'd love to go back. And I was taking tons of mental notes about good ideas that they are doing there that I would love to see here. For instance, a free electric shuttle every 5 minutes.
5 minutes?
I think it's 5 minutes because there's just like a loop. It's awesome.
I don't think you can go anywhere in downtown in
Free
5 minutes in a car.
shuttle.
Okay, great. So I will discuss with staff and with the Riverfront to confirm those dates and get more information out to you as soon as I can. There's also this idea. There's a budget question in play too, so it's expensive for us all to get on a bus and drive to Chattanooga and stay in hotels. And some of the Riverfront folks have volunteered to pay for their hotel rooms. And you don't have to answer this now, but if you are able to do that and willing to do that, there are also some Riverfront folks who are willing to sponsor someone else's hotel room. If you could connect or email me privately with your position or ability to do that, that would help us in planning.
And also, I would just add to that Stephanie mentioned to me that downtown commission members would also be invited if you wanted to help
Sponsor.
Yeah,
if you
add some
can.
money to that pot to make sure.
Great. Thank you. Okay, we have, next up is Dana's report. Are we queuing her in from Sunshine Request? Are we reading her report? Are you presenting?
She's really not feeling well.
Yeah,
at
she's
all.
really
she should
ill.
Be sleeping, but she can't rest.
Yeah. She came in to set us up, but she's very ill. Thank you, Dana. We all have a link to it, so
yeah, I'm
perhaps
not
we
really
can...
prepared to present this.
Yeah.
I have been having discussions about the noise ordinance lately, so I know a little bit about that. There's signs have gone up about the Haywood Street project for the streetscape project I saw on the fence yesterday at 68 Haywood.
Do you
some
think the
information about
noise
that.
ordinance is going to come back to us for review? It says it's in a final drafting mode.
They are trying to get it passed by the end of March. I don't know that it
We'll
was
have time.
planning on coming back to you all for a review. I think staff, maybe at your next meeting, I'm not really in a position to make promises, but I
Right.
think we could bring you the detailed ordinance as soon as we get a draft. We
That
can
would be
send
great.
it to you all for your comments.
It's already been to public safety
Yes.
committee, right?
Right.
Right.
If we
So
can
there's a
discuss
point at
it.
which really your role is to come to those other, or, email. Yeah, so they worked pretty hard on it, so.
It would be great for this body to review it, and if we do, I'll remind us, if we get the ordinance draft emailed to us, we are not to discuss it over email.
If Dana or who, could bring it here, or if somebody else can, I just can't promise their time, and you all made some comments, those comments could be a part of the staff report to council, right?
Okay.
It may not be an official vote, but your comments could be included. We do that for a lot of things.
Yeah, I know that the noise ordinance task force, or whatever you guys were calling it, they sat down with the Buskers Collective. We brought in buskers that we selected that we knew might be affected by anything heavy-handed, but had a bunch of input there, and I saw our input reflected later in the report. So I feel good about it so far. But of course, things always get changed in the soup as things go along. So I will withhold final judgment. But so far so good, I will say.
Great.
My biggest concern about noise ordinance stuff is just unintended consequences. And so I'm really, I think that no matter what we intend and what council eventually passes, I'm concerned that when it actually lands on the ground, we're going to find some unintended consequences. So I think the most important feature, I think, of it is that we, as a city, we come back like a year later and say, how did this work? And be real prepared to tweak it and completely throw it out if necessary.
Thank you.
Are there any, I know we're near the end of your meeting and we're short on time. Are there any particular things, and I don't know if you wanted to talk about the public space management, Andrew, if you're, okay.
We haven't met since November. So.
But there are some big things like the Haywood Page Master Plan. It looks like some draft concepts will be ready mid-February. It looks like there will be some meetings potentially held with dates that are to be announced, but we can get that information out to you as it happens. There will be a public feedback process.
And I would say, last night we had the hotel moratorium meeting over at the Collider. I saw a number of you there. We had over 120 folks, or at least that's what the paper said. So now, but it was packed. So,
I'll be the next one.
and it was actually my group. I was with a group of folks, and it felt actually really productive. There was a very short presentation by the panel. Myself and Stacy Merton and David Hazard, we took them on a van tour of the city yesterday for the major corridors where the hotels are. We didn't go to every single place, but then we did a walking tour of downtown. And we tried to show them different character areas as well as, not just hotels, but character areas. And this is part of our history. Here's what people really value about our downtown.
So I have a question about that. They mentioned that they met with stakeholders yesterday. Who were the stakeholders they met with?
So there was a real mix. So Stacy Merton, who's the project manager, we put together a list, and with other folks helping. So we had Pam came. We had a mix of Sage came. So it was a mix of commission folks, neighborhood representatives. So we reached out. We tried to get folks from all some different neighborhoods come. Nonprofits, hoteliers, a few hoteliers, not a lot. The Lodging Association was there.
How many people were there?
There were two groups. There were about 45. I don't know. I wasn't there for both of them, but I think for each group there may have been 20 people at each group.
And they did say they were going to list who attended. last night when they were asked the same question at the
Okay.
public session.
So the list of invitees was
Yeah.
much longer than those who had
Right.
the actual attendance list.
Did you hear that, Ruth? So they said that they
It
would
was
list all the.
interesting though, when the question was asked, who did you meet with, stakeholders, and it was like deer in the headlights. It was like, we don't know kind of thing.
Well, it's a good question, and I was there last night, and I think there was certainly some representation not in the room.
Right,
Sure.
So, and just so everybody understands, this is one part of this hotel moratorium project and phase and study. So they'll be coming back January 30th and doing a presentation and their findings. So that's, and then we kind of close that chapter, and we'll take that, but we still have more work to do. And if there are things we haven't heard or people we haven't heard from, we will be working on that. So it's not, please don't think that this is the end-all be-all, that we're depending on this particularly.
I wasn't there, but isn't there another meeting coming up? There's like a second.
January 30th, they're presenting their findings.
Okay, but there's another input session?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. I thought there was.
There probably will be more things coming after that, but just not with ULI.
Right. Just an observation, this type of process would be relatively easy to astroturf by a coordinated industry. And so I just want to keep that on people's minds.
Well, I think, I'll just say people have been emailing what were the top 5 things from your table before we type up all our notes. And there's a lot of agreement, and there was over 100 people saying a lot of the same things. So I don't know that that's easy to cover up, right?
Yeah, I heard consistent themes at the 2 events I attended too.
Okay.
And
So
I don't think
I
it would be
wanna-
anything new. I think we've all heard it. Concern for wages, concern for over-tourism, concern for displacement, concern for construction materials, concern for
Character, authenticity
and design.
of the
Yeah.
place.
How much is too much? Yeah.
So I want to just elevate the Neighborhood Hero Award since Dana isn't here.
Great.
I just think we talk a lot about buildings. That's our job here. But buildings function for people. And whether people serve on commissions or not, and they have the capacity to do that, I just want to elevate that it's an opportunity for us to really put the faces of our neighbors to the work that they do that doesn't sit on boards or commissions. So I just want to elevate that in
great.
Dana's report.
That's great, and I will comment just that the last couple years, those folks who have been honored aren't on a board or commission, and they're doing hard work in their neighborhoods, unpaid volunteer work, and so thank you.
So Sasha, before you leave, I have a question for you about the 75 Cox Avenue.
Sure.
Will that come to this board?
No,
Level 1.
Okay.
it's a level 1.
So will there be any public input?
Not required. It's not required. I have fielded a question from one downtown resident, and I encouraged him to go talk. I don't know if everybody knows about 75 Cox. It's a partnership between Asheville Pizza and the Orange Peel for an outdoor venue, music venue, or an outdoor venue on that Wachovia site on Cox Avenue. And there is a new noise ordinance, as we just talked about, coming, and that will impact that site. And staff has been working, Orange Peel's been kind of plugged into that issue as well, so they know kind of where we're headed, so their eyes are wide open. I do think that it's helpful for downtown stakeholders to be in touch with Mike Rangel from Asheville Pizza, or the folks from the Orange Peel. Tell them your concerns directly. We can definitely share plans when we get them. I saw kind of an initial landscape plan. They're meeting with city staff, still working it out. It's a ways off, I think, but
They also attended the South Slope Neighborhood Association meeting the other night this week, and
That's
I
right.
attended, and I can tell you some details that I felt were pretty exciting and maybe mischaracterized in other places where I'd heard about the project. There are an outdoor venue, yes. They said they will probably have 16 to 18 outdoor events a year, and that they will, during the week, be done with anything by 10, and on the weekends, 11. So it's not like a salvage station event in the middle of downtown. And then they are pulling up, I guess the structure that is there, that is the drive-through Old Wells Fargo, is going to become 2 stories and have a rooftop. They're going to remove blacktop and put in some grass, which I thought was really neat. And they're really focused on family-oriented events. I think a lot of the folks involved have young children, and they're kind of looking for a place where families can hang out in downtown. It sounds really neat the more I hear about it. So,
And my observation of the music industry and the types of shows that could take place there based on the size is that these are not things that are already taking place in downtown.
Right.
These are things that right now, because you know the economics of it, you need a certain size venue to bring in certain acts. And right now these acts that are too big for the Orange Peel and are not a Civic Center level act are going to Pisgah and Salvage Station, and they're going away from downtown. And a lot of the bands that sort of matriculated past the Orange Peel as far as their crowd sizes are now no longer coming to downtown because of this. And so I'm really excited to see that we have another venue that I can see bands that I like that is walking distance from my house, because you can't take a bus to Salvage Station, and parking over there is a nightmare. I'm
neat.
super happy to see this.
a couple more details. They are building an outdoor structure with 20 bathrooms, and their capacity will be 3,000.
So it would be appropriate, as you're talking, it makes me think it would be appropriate if you wanted to ask them to come present to you. It's not a review, it's not a design review, but they could.
But just to inform us.
Yeah. Change downtown.
Yeah, I'm happy to invite them. That was
Well,
the
and
last
I'll
thing.
just point out, Wicked Weeds Funkatorium has the outdoor, space much smaller than that, and they committed to similar hours, not playing late into the night. And I don't know if it's been a problem. I haven't heard any reports of it, but I don't think that it's 18 shows a year. It's probably less, but outdoor music.
Yeah, one other thing, Karen Ramshaw was at the parking subcommittee meeting, and she said they're really going to be working with ART, the bus system, and if people actually ride the bus, you'll get a discounted ticket, or you'll get something off. So they're really going to try to encourage people to ride public transportation, which I thought was great.
That's awesome.
And they're also hoping a lot of people will Uber.
Well, I would love to see them come to a meeting.
I'm going to invite them. Hopefully they'll come and
Have them bring pizza.
share.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right.
A couple more things. So in Dana's update, there are links to the results of the survey for the public space management. I encourage you to look at those. There's some information about the Haywood Streetscape sewer and water improvements and some links to the project page. Please dig in on that so you know what's happening. It is about to start. And that is, I have one more item. And Dana, I know you're watching, but I couldn't find your link. But we want to make sure that this is Brent Campbell's last downtown commission. Oh, I'm dropping things. And we wanted to make sure that we thanked you for your time and hard work. Can you pass that to Brent? Thank you. Oh, you found the picture. Good. There's cool Brent in the back. But you've been immeasurably helpful, and I think it's always wonderful to have, since we are a design review body, to have architectural experience up here to share insights on things that the rest of us may not know much about. Anyone like to say anything to Brent to thank him?
Yay, Brent.
Yay.
They'll show up when the pizza shows up.
And say, won't we see you on the other side now?
Oh, right.
Yeah, you'll be up.
Right.
Hopefully not. Like, at some point in that.
Yeah.
It has been fun. It's been a new experience for me. It's been several years, so, ran its course. But I was thinking about it, and I feel like most people spend their lives in like an echo chamber of people that all agree with them. And that's what's been really fun about this, because it's a pretty healthy dialogue from all perspectives. So it's been enlightening for me and rewarding and fun.
Well, we certainly
Thanks, everyone.
appreciate you.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Please do come back on the other side. Keep us in line.
I get to learn a lot about architecture from, being able to sit here and it's always enjoyable. And I will miss your wealth of your knowledge here.
Oh, thank you.
Here. Yeah. Thank you, Brent. Okay, and that does remind me that council will be voting possibly or interviewing at their next council meeting on who will fill the big seat that Brent is leaving. And I sent you all of the people that applied. If you have, some of you shared your input with me, I'll share that with council, but if you are also welcome to reach out to council yourself directly. I believe they're voting on that on Tuesday. Okay, so
I would like to see more architectural knowledge.
losing Brent, it certainly makes me feel that way as
I
well.
would hate to do, so much of what we do is design related, and I know that I benefit a lot from, from being able to have some other people on this commission that works in that world.
Right.
So I would like to see I'd like to see some of Brent's knowledge replaced anyway.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think one thing with that too, it's hard because a lot of the architects in town are really conflicted on a lot of these projects, and so I think I'm kind of unique in that most of my projects are really small, so there's no conflict with these level 2 projects that we see. So it'll be a little bit of a challenge to find someone. Not that I'm irreplaceable, but it's it's.
Well, you need to put some names forth for us.
I think there's a lot of good candidates that already applied. So.
There were 7 applicants for your
It's
one
just the
seat.
conflicts just get a little tricky for people because it's such a small town and everyone works together nonstop.
It is.
And they're all
And we have had that problem with conflicts and having recusals that, like just last meeting, that happened, right? And we had a split vote, which meant a denial, and because we had a recused member. So good things to consider. Okay, I know everybody's getting ready to go. We want to give you the opportunity for public comment. Does anyone have a public comment to make? It's 10:40. Come on up. If you could just say your name.
Hi, I'm short. I don't know. I'm not used to microphones. I'm Kim Levi. I did apply for the commission. I have a background in architecture and planning. I worked for the city for 5 years in development services doing plan review.
Wow.
Currently, I work with Novus Architects just like a block away, and a lot of the projects are actually all over the country, not in Asheville, which is why I want to serve on the commission, because I miss talking to the community. Like that was, I'm actually really introverted, but that was my favorite part of the job, like any customer that walked into the city, like working with them, trying to come up with a solution for their permit. And yeah, so I hope you'll consider me. I don't know what else to say. I really appreciated the discussion today. Like Brent said, the different viewpoints is really phenomenal. So thank you.
I'm sorry I didn't catch your name.
Kim Levi.
Kim Levi.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for being here and stepping up to introduce yourself.
Stoked that you showed up.
Yeah, I kept
And on
trying to
time.
come last month, but it was canceled quite a few times.
Yes, weather, yes, that is true. And she beat some of you here, so, yeah,
Hey.
great, thank you.
I was in the parking lot.
Traffic,
notice
I
on
know,
26.
okay. All right, y'all, I think we are done here, and thank you all for coming together. We'll see you next time.